Dadgum, that was the longest two I've ever seen ever heard in my life. Trent actually was counting down for us to go live, and he ran out of breath during 2. It was amazing. I've never seen that before. So good evening. My name's Jonathan Harmon with the J. Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams, and I've got some pretty cool dudes sitting here with me. We had to pivot a little bit. We got some bad weather going on tonight, so our bigger live studio audience kind of battened down the hatches. These guys braved the elements to come in here and talk home maintenance. I am super pumped about that.
Yeah, I see the guy still got water spots from coming in.
Yeah, me too. I know. My shirt repels water. You got to get you one of these, big guy.
And he look good, though.
Yeah, you do look good. You do look good. So we're going to talk home maintenance. We're going to talk about preparation. We're going to talk about preventative maintenance, those kinds of things, and areas that you can improve your house, areas that you can prevent damage from happening, those kinds of situations there. And so I'm going to introduce you guys, and then I do want y'all to talk each about yourselves a little bit, your background, how you got into what you do, why you do what you do. If you can give me a minute or two on that, that would be great. So we're going to start over here. Jim Edwards with Preferred Home Inspection Service, my go-to home inspector. Also happens to have a fantastic haircut, and so he's super handsome over there.
Yeah, thank you.
My grandma told me once that God made so many perfect heads, and the rest he put hair on.
There you go. Right. That's good. Good to hear. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah. So how'd you get into home inspecting?
I worked in corporate world for a long time, 30 years, and I always wanted to do something for myself. And just where I could just be my own person, not have employees. And one day my wife came out and said, what about looking into home inspections? And so I got on the computer, found a class in Brentwood, figured out that about 80% of the home inspectors are just one-man shows. And so did some research and pulled some money together and thought, I can do this. I can start my own business. And background was always wanted and always did home maintenance stuff myself. Could build a deck, a shed, pour a little concrete slab and stuff like that. So this fit, and I just love what I'm doing. I've been doing it about 7 years now, full time here in Murfreesboro.
Well, what I've always loved about you, and I've used multiple home inspectors, and there's some really good ones in our area. In fairness, let's balance this out. There's some really not good ones as well. No names on those, but what I've always liked about you is that you're very thorough. Number one, you follow a plan when you go through a house, and you really do a good job of looking at everything. But you also look at it and go, okay, realistically, this is a problem. Here's why it's a problem. This is a problem, but it's not that big of a problem. Yeah. Or this is a problem, and all you have to do is contact Mike or whoever, and get some stuff taken care of. So I just think you're very practical with your advice on that, and that's a big deal.
Thank you.
Because I've also had some home inspectors that go in and they start talking about codes that they know nothing about, right. and they scare people.
Yeah, it's very common just to write something in the report that makes it way bigger than it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, seen it too many times.
Yeah.
So this guy right here, Jim Africano with Affi Pest and Wildlife, and we were talking before you got here, Jim. I think I've worked with you since I've been in real estate.
Well, you're actually the reason I do pest control. I heard you were leaving teaching, so I figured I'd go ahead and get the ball rolling a year or two before that.
It worked out great,
I figured
man.
you're going to need a good bug guy. So.
I love this guy. So you do, of course, pest control, so all the bugs, all of that kind of stuff. But you also have expanded your services even since we've been working together.
Yeah.
And you're doing stuff like bed bugs. You're doing stuff like rodents and those kinds of things. And you do humane wildlife removal.
Yep. I am the skunk whisperer.
That's it.
Skunk whisperer.
That's it. And then you also do other types of things that destroy houses, like fungus and water intrusions and things like that. You can handle all of those kinds of things.
Yeah. What most people don't know is the termite licensing is actually wood-destroying organisms, which actually carry a lot of fungal and things like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff we are trained in and are tested on that we can do.
Yeah. And how did you get into that? Because you had a restaurant prior to this, right?
And during.
And during.
and
that's
some
true.
in between.
And now he's got a retail shop too. So, hey, he's just an entrepreneur for all of us. But
the friend and neighbor of mine actually had a heart attack, and I didn't know a lot about pest control, but I knew a lot about running small businesses, and it was a family-run business. And I stepped in and helped him out for a couple years, and then we just parted ways. We're still neighbors, and I went to open a restaurant, but people kept calling. So I already licensed and whatnot, so I went and had a talk with my previous employer, and we worked out a deal. And for 20 years now, I've been servicing, actually over 20 years. 03,
Wow.
I've been servicing Rutherford County in Middle Tennessee.
wow, that's a long time. So it was several years then, because I didn't start till 09. You're way older than me.
We ain't going to go there.
Wow.
And next we've got Mike Donovan, and Mike and I just met this evening. Missy, I guess, knows you, and
Yeah.
and you came highly recommended. So you have a kind of professional handyman service.
Yeah. I think more than just a handyman service. I started out kind of like that. I mean, I was spent 30 years in corporate America also, and retired early, and thought, man, I'm one of those people that just can't sit on the couch. I can't sit and watch Andy Griffith all day. So I have to be doing
That
something.
whistling. Man.
Yeah, they do whistling. Yeah, I mean, I love Barney, but geez, after a while. But I needed, and I've always been real handy. I've built decks. I've helped my friends, remodel stuff and such. So it was natural. I had a lot of the tools. I had a lot of the know-how, and I'm real good at being a YouTuber to see if I figure it out sometimes. But I started kind of in my neighborhood. I have a neighborhood of about 60 houses, and lived there quite a while. And recently, I was telling my wife I probably worked on over 30 of these homes in
wow.
this neighborhood now. So I just kind of expanded out from putting in faucets and hanging ceiling fans and small jobs to now we do as much as remodeling. We do a lot of bathroom remodels, licensed kind of contractors, remodeling license, and
So you do have a GC license?
I do. I have a contractor's remodeling license,
Okay.
which takes me up to $25,000
Beautiful.
in work. So, and I'm insured and I'm bonded, and I think those are very important things.
No
when
doubt.
you're having somebody come into your home. So,
Everybody at this table will agree with you. On
yeah,
that.
yeah. A lot of people out there that are not, and
And it doesn't mean they're not capable.
they're not capable,
But everybody makes a mistake.
absolutely,
Yeah.
if somebody hooks up a wrong wire in your house and you got, a little bit of an issue, then, you want to make sure they have insurance.
Or a
and stuff.
really big issue.
Yeah, big issue. Yeah.
Or
the
an issue
pipe-
where he inspects it and goes, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, or the pipe you worked on leaks all night, and then the
Yeah.
next morning you got a lot of drywall to fix.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good.
Very good, very good. So, what we're the plan for tonight is to go through some stuff. When we first kind of posited this class, it was okay. What are the things that people should do? Maybe they don't do. What are some things that they need to do to protect that? What is ultimately for most people their single largest asset, where most of their wealth accumulates. What do they need to do to protect that? And then also, let's provide an opportunity for people to ask what they consider the dumb questions that they feel like they should already know, but for whatever reason they don't yet. And just give an opportunity to talk through some of those things. To again, that ultimately it's that protection thing, right? So you buy a car and you don't change the oil, car's not going to last very long. You know what I mean? So what are the things in your home that are kind of similar to that? So I'm going to start with this, and we'll start with Mike over here. What is the number one thing? Okay, you can only pick one. Okay, so follow the rules.
Be hard here.
Looking at
This
you.
is gonna be tough.
The number one thing that if people would just do this, their house would last them longer and their lives would be better.
Wow, that's a tough question. Really, really tough. The biggest thing that I think is that you will see in homes, and I'm sure that when you inspect them, you can see this, is water damage. People get water damage that they don't even know that's happening. Very important, caulking, just making sure that windows are sealed, because it's really important, because once that water damage happens, then you have mold, you have mildew, you've got a lot of stuff that just you can't see, that all of a sudden when I come and I open up the wall and we've got bugs, we've got, a lot of damage and rotten wood and everything else. Those costs escalate very fast because water is very damaging. And so I would tell people that if they were going to do one thing, it's to, make sure if you see water or if you see a leak, don't think, oh, well, that's just a drip of water on the floor, or that's just a drip coming from a ceiling out of there. I'm not sure where it came from, but let's see if it stops. Not likely to happen.
Yeah. Maybe that leak will fix itself. Yeah.
Not likely to happen.
Okay, that's good.
Mine's going to be easy. Preventative termite treatment.
Yeah.
When I first started, way back in the day, they said there was an average of 7 termite colonies per acre in Middle Tennessee. The latest numbers aren't going down. It is 23 colonies per acre in Middle Tennessee. Even the state says it's not if, it's when you're going to get termites.
That's crazy.
So preventative.
You say 23?
23 colonies per acre.
And we have a lot of acres worth of roads, so that means that on the permeable land, that's even more concentrated.
Yeah, so you're going to get termites. Prevention is cheaper. Whether you get termites or not, because you're going to end up getting them, you're still going to have to pay for the treatment. Once they're there, you're going to have to pay for repairs too. So just get involved. Almost every company offers just a free general inspection. No paperwork with that, but then we also have the termite letters,
and depending
reports.
on the size of your home, a preventative treatment, and then maintaining a contract. So preventative treatment, you're very low 4 digits, generally speaking.
Yep.
And a contract, once it's been treated, is what with you guys?
I think we're $150 a year. So
I mean, you do that in freaking 2 floor joists if you get termites.
But even if you don't maintain the contract, get a preventative. I mean, some of our chemicals are listed for 10 years. That's what we use. It's a 10-year termiticide. But again, once you mulch, you're putting untreated. Even if it says it's treated, it's heat treated usually. So you're changing the environment. So it is good to maintain a contract.
And for heaven's sake, if you go and get the free mulch over here at the wood chipper, get it treated immediately. Don't get it probably, but free is free for a reason.
Yeah, I like free mulch. It treats me well.
That's awesome. Oh, I have a hand.
What do you tell someone who has a slab and says, I have a slab, I don't need termite treatment?
So
if I have a slab, I don't need termite treatment, in case you couldn't hear that.
So once that slab is built, it's cracked. You have penetrations, you have plumbing things, and it only takes 1/32 of an inch for a termite to get in. So your slab is probably already cracked if the house is finished. You also have multiple slabs. Your garage slab and your house slab are different slabs, and there is a crack right there.
Which is why we see so many in
slabs.
garages.
Yeah,
and we see a bunch, don't we?
We both see termite stuff.
Yeah, right there where your
slabs.
garage door comes down, that wood goes all the way to the down, and it's right there at the crack.
Yeah, it's like the open door to Golden Corral for those termites, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a call Jim moment.
Yeah.
So that's mine.
And other Jim, what's yours?
So I mean, mainly the crawl space. If they could take care of the crawl space, which is a lot of different ways, extending out the downspouts, having a good vapor barrier. But just take care of
way
that.
around the one thing. What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, moisture in the crawl space, and that brings termites. It brings wood rot, fungal growth, and all that things that are going to happen down there where nobody wants to go.
So, I mean, show of hands out there in our tens and tens of listeners, how many of you have been in your crawl space within the last 6 months? Yeah, that's right. No hands. Yeah. Okay, well, you guys nerds, I know that, but
my crawl space. You said my crawl space.
Yeah. Everybody, you've been in everybody else's crawl space
too.
I'm sad this is live because I really wanted to say something else, but I controlled myself. Yeah, you're welcome. So anyway, I mean, people just don't. They just don't. They just don't go in their crawl space ever. So to your thing about water, about all of this, every single one of you
Yeah,
guys.
it all ties in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's do this. What would you say, and we may have just hit on this, and we'll start with you this time. The most neglected part of the house is? Generally.
I mean, the most neglected part, crawl space.
It's okay. You don't have to be original here.
Yeah. It's just so many. Every house is a little bit different. Nobody trims the trees back, vegetation, hitting the siding, hitting the shingles.
Rubbing the grid
It's hard
off.
to come up with just like one because I do two inspections a
Well,
day.
how about your top three?
Top three? They neglect the crawl space. They neglect heating and air conditioning. Just don't change the filters. Hit the coil with the weed trimmer, things like that, and probably electrical maybe. I mean, they don't. If something stops working, they just kind of let it go. Use a different receptacle, things like that.
You mean outlets don't just wear out?
They just stop. Yeah, just go to another one.
You run an extension cord or three or chain.
Saw it today.
Chain some power strips together.
Saw an extension
right?
cord attached to where a smoke detector was in the garage to run a Ring camera today.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
All right. Most neglected.
Yeah, this is a hard question. I mean, there's lists for all of this.
Sure. Top three. Top
No,
three
I'll
most
go,
neglected.
Penetration points, making sure your house is sealed up and doing it a couple times a year, whether it's caulking, whether it's your crawl space vents. So
The
penetration
shroud
points.
around where your ducts come through.
It's huge.
Lots of those. And that lets big wildlife in, doesn't it?
Yes, ACE air conditioning, especially the box units. That is our number one thing where skunks and other critters are getting in.
Dude, skunks and raccoons and snakes and squirrels and all the S words. All the S words. Yeah. Okay. Most neglected?
Wow. Hard to say. I see a lot of overloaded electrical boxes. People have added on, or now all of a sudden, there's with all this technology and stuff. Oh, well, that 20 amp, that 15 amp breaker, we'll just stuff a 20 in there, and now everything works fine. That's probably one of the biggest neglected areas I see is that people overload those, overloaded circuitry in the house. Older homes, no grounds, and they got an octopus coming out of an electrical socket. I mean, you're asking for a problem for sure.
Well, and you think about it, you put your entertainment center there, you have a TV, you have a receiver, you have, a couple of game systems, you have a router. I mean, you have all of that stuff all at one location. And especially if it's a house in the 80s or older, it's only got one outlet. Right
And
there.
most of them don't have grounds in the 80s or older in those outlets. And that technology that we have now is such high-powered technology. It takes a lot of power to pull it. I think the other thing that I see is neglected at everybody's house is their dryer vent. I mean, I've seen so many of them that, the vent is a 4-inch vent and there's a hole in it that you can stick a pencil through, that to see it to the vent. And that's going to, at some point in time, it's going to cause a fire.
All right, so confession time. Yeah.
Yeah. How many loads do you do before you empty the vent?
Okay, so what happened was
lint trap.
y'all know I'm stupid, right? So
We're learning.
yeah, so we got this new washer and dryer, right? And the dryer worked great for about 4 months. and then it just wouldn't dry. Like it would run and 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 run. We're like, these friggin', it's not heating up, and it would be hot, but it wouldn't dry, because it just keep the moisture in there, right? And so we get service done. It went 2 months. We ended up doing laundry at a laundromat, right? All this stuff, and finally, and we would get the little brush thing and shove it down through the vent, and we're like, no, this thing's fine. Well, I didn't realize how long the vent was, so I finally got in the crawl space. And whoever had this house before us comes down out of the floor, goes this way, and then they get to a spot where it's going to go around some air conditioner duct, and so they drop down and make a V right? And so we're just
Yeah.
jamming this brush to there.
Creative.
Okay, well,
venting.
that V
Very
right
nice
there.
trap.
Exactly. So I'm in there and I disconnected. It's got a joint right there. I disconnect it, and I kid you not, I pulled a lump of lint, wet, sopping, stinking lint out of this V.
Wow.
It was like, have you ever seen the commercial where they talk about how 5 pounds of fat
Yeah.
looks, and it has that big wad of yellow?
Yellow, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like that. Only it was lint. So, anyway, yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
And guess what? I got that out of there. It works great.
It works great. Yeah. I mean, people will be amazed how well the dryer works once you clean out the vent.
And then we get critters in them.
Yeah.
You're right.
The door on the flapper door's gone, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One you got the 3 louver ones, and one louver is
Oh, yeah.
off.
And there's
Yeah.
a bird in there usually.
Yep.
That's another one that treats me well.
Yeah, it's birds.
You've had some bat experience as well.
Yeah. Bat jobs are something else. I mean, when you go in like the ET show, I mean, we plastic off everything because there can be so much bacteria in the guano and their fecal matter. And it is actually a very dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very expensive treatment.
And ultimately, you want to save the bats because bats are really good for our ecosystem.
It's actually worse. There's times we're not allowed to get them out.
Really?
Yes. We actually have to call the state for every bat job and make sure we're allowed to get them out.
Wow.
That's
So, yeah, how would you like to just say, yeah, you got to live with them?
yeah. Good. Good luck. Don't go in your attic.
Used a tennis racket.
Yeah. We used to have them get them in our house. We had an old house with the vents, and all of a sudden you'd be sitting there watching TV with those big old vents from a furnace that had been converted from coal. And all of a sudden you see, come flying out of the vent.
That's awesome. All right, so let's go this route. So next thing, and again, I think we'll start with Jim again. This Jim, if we're about to list the house and we're prepping for sale, give me like a 1-day honeydew list of things I need to check, need to look at, need to work on to prep the house for sale.
First thing would be make everything accessible for the inspection. Today's garage was packed. I couldn't even get to the water heater.
Right.
So they just threw everything in the garage.
I tell people to leave ant tunnels.
Yeah, something, anything. But make the electrical panel accessible, the water heater, anything like that. So accessibility to the attic space. You got to pull the car out of the garage or whatnot just so we can get up into the attic. And as far as like cleaning the gutters out, make sure the downspouts are extended out, trees and stuff like that. That's pretty simple stuff. Mostly pretty much for you say for pre-sale, like just for listing. Yeah, I mean, you already tell them to declutter and things like that, but just for an inspection wise, just to make sure that we can get to things and clean up stuff so that we're not just having to write something up. The small things that we would write up, this needs cleaned up.
Well, or you need to have the seller prove to you that light switch works.
Yeah. Change the bulbs, but put in bulbs. There's a lot of houses that
Bring
don't.
that up.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. They just burn out and let them go.
It's pretty wild. What about you?
A lot of our stuff we do have to inspect inside the house too. So same thing, especially the garages. They push all this stuff against the walls, and again, that is a big spot where the termite shelter tubing is. But yeah, accessibility to the crawl space. You wouldn't believe how many people will have a lock and have no idea where the key is. You know, I've had to drill out
electric panel outside.
Yeah, they do. They lock up the electrical panels.
Yeah, so being able to get into the crawl space and accessible for a visual inspection everywhere. So,
Cool.
including the attic.
Yes.
Pre-sale. Well, everybody freshens everything up that they neglected for the last 20 years when they're getting ready to sell their home, right? That's when you buy new light fixtures and paint the bedroom that hasn't been painted for 30 years. So, and again, as you said, light bulbs. I don't know how many times I go into a house and half the light bulbs are not working in lights, the fixtures, the ceiling fans. I mean, just walk around and make sure everything at least works.
Yeah.
You know, and start freshening stuff up, the obvious. I mean, you know, that's what a lot of times do. used to do a lot of stuff for property management companies, and they go in and throw a coat of paint on it, put new knobs on the drawers,
Maybe replace some carpet.
Maybe replace some carpet, put down some LVP. There's a lot of stuff that's not really, really expensive that will gain you on the other side.
Yeah.
People make it attractive.
My advice to folks is if it's supposed to work, make sure it does, right? So all of your corner lights and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd tell them to make the light bulbs match within a fixture just because it's very pleasing. Yeah. Change the air filter that you haven't changed in 4 years, right?
I date mine, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
I have dates written on mine every month.
Take them to a restaurant or?
Well, yeah, I got them actually going to work properly for that month. But I actually had an HVAC guy that put it on Facebook every day, so now I actually take a picture of it and tag him in it.
Ah, that's smart. That's good. What else? And then other than that, the obvious stuff: declutter, depersonalize, all that. So yeah, that's great. All right, so now we're gonna do this one, and then we're gonna get to some specific things. Okay, what is something that, in your estimation, people think that they should know, but they're too embarrassed to ask when it comes to home maintenance and that kind of thing? We'll start with this, Jim.
Wow, you're gonna give me the hard question.
Yeah.
But they should know, but they're too embarrassed to ask.
Yeah, maybe, and it could be something simple like, what is a GFCI, right? Every house has them for the most part. And people know that there's a little button on there, and there's sometimes a little green light, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. You don't have to do that one.
No, but crawl space vents.
There you go. Let's talk crawl space vents.
So people want to know when to open and close. Some of them do open and close automatically, but a lot of people don't even know how. Just a little metal vent you flip open, or the plastic you slide them. But basically, when it gets above 55 degrees or below, and regularly is kind of the time you want to do that. But I think a lot of people don't know it, don't research it, and a lot of people don't even know how many they have. They always put holly bushes right in front of them, so they're not going to go back there and get scratched up and
get poked. Yeah,
well, they'll send me to do that.
So 55 degrees is the threshold. So when we get down to 55 and we feel like it's going to stay that way for a little while,
go ahead and shut them up.
Go close them. And most of them either slide or they're just louvered, and when you push one of them down, the whole thing will close.
Yeah, and now they actually have some that are not that expensive, and they are easy to replace. They have them at Home Depot, and it's coiled wire. So when the temperature gets cold, the wire shrinks, and it'll shut them automatically for you. So you don't have to go do it.
And they're not electric.
No, they're not electric. It's all based on temperature.
Interesting.
So they are really nice, and they actually are triple screen. They have a plastic screen behind it, a metal screen, and then a large one, so it'll help with rodent and insects.
Very cool. Okay, that's a good one.
You can't believe how many people don't know how to shut the water off at their house.
And when there's a problem, that's a problem.
They have no idea where the valve is, or they don't have a T-wrench or whatever. And I mean, again, when water starts pouring out of something, you just can't say, I don't know how to shut the water off at my house.
And that's the wrong time to Google it.
And that's the wrong time to Google it. Yep,
Yes.
you might be taking a bath in there, but most people are good. I won't say most. That's probably too far out there. But a lot of people have no idea how to shut the water off at their house.
Let's go through it, because usually there's at least two ways, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
if it's a modern house. So let's talk about that. What are the two things that you might want to check?
So depending upon if your house is a slab or a crawl space, it can vary. But a lot of the newer houses will have a shutoff valve in the garage of some sort where the incoming water comes in. There'll be a large valve. You should ask the contractor or somebody who sells you the house or such, is that the water shut off, because it may not be labeled that. The other way is you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever you want to go, and you buy one of those.
Not when it starts leaking.
No.
Have this handy already.
You need to have this before. Keep it under your bed if you need to.
So I actually have mine. I have a hook in the tree nearest to the water thing, and I leave it. And I've even showed my son
Yeah.
where it's at.
Wow.
So at 8 years old, he actually knows
Nice.
where it is and how to shut off the water.
So what we're talking about is
It's a T handle, and obviously it looks like a piece of pipe. It's probably 2 foot long with a foot long T on the top, and at the bottom of it, it has a little U claw
Yep.
and you go to the box and where it says water. And
box being the water meter.
the water meter
Yep.
in your front yard. It's got a plastic cover, most of them in town here, and you flip it open or just pull the whole lid off the box because you're going to probably need access. Do it slowly. There could be critters or something in there, right, Jim? And then on the line coming into the meter, of which you'll see is a round, about 2-inch valve with a mate to the U, or the male portion of the U, slide on the top, and you turn it 90 degrees until the meter stops running.
And you know that it's lined up because they want to be able to lock them out. So there's
Right.
usually 2 holes.
Right.
And if the holes are lined up, it's off.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And if you do go out there and there's a padlock on there, you might want to call somebody.
Yeah.
You're not
It's
gonna have a water
the,
leak.
the problem is with your checkbook at that point. It's not.
It's not going to be with the meter.
What about you?
My water key's in my truck, but we have a water shut off in the garage.
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm not home, it can always be taken care of. I don't know if they're afraid to ask, but most people don't know their smoke detectors expire in 10 years. So every house over 10 years old that I'm in, I'm just pulling them off, looking at them, dating them.
They've got a sticker is blatantly obvious on the
If
back.
it's 10 years old, like 30 years ago, they probably didn't. And I see a lot of 30-year-old smoke
But I
detectors.
changed the battery, Jim.
Yeah, they put the battery in it. It still works. The test button still works. But the smoke alarms are not supposed to work after like 10 years.
Is it safe to say that if your
didn't
smoke
know that.
detector still takes 9 volts, it's probably too old? Because
No,
we've switched to AA now,
Have they?
or sealed where there's no battery.
No, I had a 2023 today with a 9-volt.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've only seen a few with that, but and a lot of them are interconnected, so that all over. You have a fire downstairs in the laundry room, it'll pick it up, and you're upstairs in the bedroom. So, the interconnected is pretty much standard on most houses today. Everything is like that, but I'd say to change out the smoke and carbon monoxide. And anything that's gas in the house, appliances, fireplace, or just an attached garage.
Is it true on the carbon monoxide that you don't want them in the ceiling? You want them down low?
It's best. Yeah. They make a dual purpose, smoke and carbon monoxide that go in the ceiling. But the plug-in ones, I think it's best to have it at lower ones.
Because carbon monoxide is heavier.
Yeah.
And so if it's already up to the ceiling, you're probably already dead.
Probably. Yep. Or sick.
Or
Impaired.
Severely impaired. I'd say mine. I'm going to go back to the GFIs versus the arc faults. If you've got a newer home, so what's the purpose of the ground fault versus the arc fault? One is to protect the house, and the other is to protect you, right?
Correct. Arc fault is the wiring and the circuitry. What you're plugging in protects it in that manner, and that's pretty standard on new construction today. GFCIs were bathrooms and garages and exterior for moisture to protect the person if you're standing or if you're wet, something like that to protect the people.
Yep. So if you have a homicidal partner that throws the
Could be.
appliance in the tub with you.
Yeah.
Lots of horror movies that wouldn't
Yeah.
have worked if you
And
just had a GFCI.
On your point about electrical and overloading things, today's appliances, your brand new appliances are very delicate. Your washer is a circuit board instead of a knob that you used to click and turn. They're very delicate. So your electronic items, your $1,000 cell phone, all that stuff, it should be protected with the grounds and things like that. And your older electrical and the houses just didn't have that.
Yeah, that's true. Trent, where are we at on time, buddy? Oh, excellent. Okay, so what you guys have in front of you, one of the things that us at the J. Harmon Home Team like to do is we like to provide our clients and our friends and really just anybody that is interested we like to provide them with things that they can use, that they can keep, that they can refer back to at any, whenever it becomes relevant to them, right? So we can talk about all this stuff, but if it's not relevant in the moment, then it's, they just have to be able to refer to it. So we put together, I went through and I found multiple checklists that were kind of seasonal and kind of compiled that list into some ideas here. So you guys have had this already. You've had a chance to kind of look over some of these things. what do you think about this checklist? So kind of going through the spring one, we always talk about spring cleaning. Like I don't know if that's still a thing, but that is a great time coming out of the winter for you to do a lot of that deferred maintenance and check up on things before we get into the heat of the summer. And so we listed a whole bunch of stuff there. What are some things that maybe, and it doesn't have to be on this list, and if it's not on this list, then I'll add to it. But what are some things that you think are spring items that folks should do in Tennessee? Good Lord, spring is anywhere from March to June, I guess, right? What are some spring items that folks should do to their home?
Probably like clean and stain or seal the deck. And then your crawl space vents, open those up, after the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty extensive list. Everything that you got listed here. Just get in crawl space here. I don't know if many people are going to do that, or if they should maybe call a roofer to come check the roof. As a DIY type thing. But there's a lot of things here that they should be doing for sure.
And I put on this one, I actually added this one: get in the crawl space and look for signs of leaks, animal intrusion, deterioration, or destruction of ductwork. Just open the hatch and crawl your happy butt in there for just a minute. Take a flashlight, right?
Yeah.
And just know you're going to take a shower afterwards. It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And just, is there something that's in there that doesn't look right? Right? Is there something dripping? Is there something torn? Is there stuff hanging down? Do you have pieces of things laying on the floor or on the ground under there? Is stuff torn up? If it's damaged, you should probably get it fixed. Is that a pretty fair? It doesn't matter if you know what you're looking at or not. Yeah. You can tell those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Water. You can see water. Or humidity. Sometimes I'll open it up and it's just really hot and you're like...
And how does it smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can usually tell when a dryer is venting into the crawl space.
Right.
And if you have a decent vapor barrier, if you have any type of water leak, when you just stop, you can usually hear it. No matter what part of the house, you can hear that drip on that plastic.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. All right, Jim, what do you think? Jim, what do you think on spring? Is there anything I'm missing here?
So you got the dryer vent to clean it out, but we talked about the dryer vents on outside critter intrusion, but also the bathroom exhaust fans have those as well.
Good point.
And so check all of your exhaust and dryer vents, make sure they're intact, but also go ahead and de-web, take down birds' nests that might be up in the lights and stuff like that, because that's all going to bring in, once the birds start laying their eggs and stuff like that, now you have fleas, mites, all this other stuff.
And you can't bring yourself to remove them. I have birds' nests right now, and I'm like,
we got two.
We got like a bird apartment going on.
So do it before they start laying the eggs. Get ahead of this.
I know, it hurts my heart. They're so cute.
But once they get in your exhaust vents,
they're not cute.
They're not cute, and I get real expensive.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Well, I think you hit on it. The dryer vents, and that's a big thing. I've got that on there. Usually in the spring, you're going to see that's when the mold that's growing, if you have a sided home, that mold that's growing on the side of your home, that's easily, taken off with some sodium hydroxide or some, they make 30-second cleaner and all those things to get those things
Mold
off there.
Mold Armor is my favorite.
Mold Armor is a good one. Yep, that take those things off. I think the biggest thing that you see in there is that, what did the winter do to the outdoors of my house that I need to fix?
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is make yourself a great list, but walk around and say,
what's wrong?
What is wrong?
Yeah.
What doesn't look right? And that you can start from the bottom there to the top either way and work your way down. One of the things that you always see in the wintertime that I always end up fixing at some point in time is homes that have screens on the windows, and they have the old wood sills. Well, the debris and everything from the winter has just packed itself way down them in the bottom of that screen, and as soon as the rains come in the spring and then the summer heat, it just rots that sill out immediately. Take those screens off, clean that debris out of there so you don't end up with problems.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Summertime, we're mowing grass. we're going to the lake, we're hanging out at Cedar Glade Brews. So we don't want to do as much, but there are a handful of things that the summer is good for, right? Not the best time to re-insulate your attic. No.
But it is a great time to prior to that, to make sure that powered attic vent is actually working. There's ways to do that. You can turn it on, but so many of them I find, they say, it's gotten really hot in upstairs in my house, and those 2 giant power vents are dead.
Yep. Okay, what else could we do in the summertime?
And on the list, you've got open windows. I don't know that a lot of people just open the windows, and that they don't open or they slam down and they don't lock. We just go from where it's cold enough outside to heat to air conditioning. I don't know. The audience, do you guys open your windows a lot, or you just turn it heat to air?
I'm weird. I like the fresh air.
Yeah, well,
So I do open a lot of my windows.
Yeah.
I do know a lot of people that don't.
a lot of people don't. I can tell.
I don't.
Yeah, we don't.
But I also, since I change my vent every month, my fresh air is actually inside, not outside.
Bragger.
Yeah.
I open like one to get like a cross
Yeah,
breeze.
yeah.
But there's several others that I've probably never even touched.
Yeah,
I
they
love
should
having the
just try
windows
open them, open and closing them, clean them, get things ready, because all that stuff is collected and
One, if
fallen
you've
down.
got an older house with wood windows that are painted, if you've
Get
repainted
out the
them,
putty knife and
mm-hmm.
razor and work at it.
Yeah, don't force it because you'll break it.
Yes.
Trust me on this one. Been there, done that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
Yeah.
stuff. And then so we go through all the seasons here. Fall. We want to make sure. I'm a huge proponent of HVAC contracts. So the particular HVAC company that I recommend, they give you a steep discount if you essentially commit to them coming out twice a year. They come out, later spring, early summer, and then they come out again in that fall, almost winter time frame, and just make sure that those particular components are working. If you do sign up for one of those, this is my advice to you: make sure it's with a company that you actually trust, and they send technicians and not salespeople, because there are some that will remain nameless that have big smiles. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. And they send salespeople, not technicians.
Yeah.
So make sure that you get some that actually send techs to clean those. What are some other fall things, perhaps, that folks might do?
Well, for me, that's when, critters are looking for a place to nest and get in. So make sure, again, walk your grounds. If you have a deck, look under the deck. See if there's an exit. If you can't actually block it off with lattice or something, make sure, but keep your eyes on it. Around your HVAC, they will dig under the plenum to get in. And if they can get their head in for the most part, they can usually get their body in. So that's a big one for us in the fall. They're looking for a place to home.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other fall stuff for you guys?
I think you got a pretty good list here. I like that to take out the screens. Most people don't take the screens off their windows in the winter, and a lot of them are made of a fiberglass type material,
Yeah.
and they wonder why they deteriorate, and they get cracked at the bottom or it bows or whatever. And most of the time, it's just because they've been left on the house, hot and cold, and the wintertime temperatures, when it gets really cold, will just deteriorate them and they'll just snap.
Well, and we have every fluctuation under the sun.
That's right.
In the winter
That's
in
right.
Tennessee, right? I mean, it could be 20 one day and
Yeah.
70 the next.
Well, its purpose is to keep pests in with windows up, right? That's the purpose.
Pests
of-
out.
Pests out, right?
Yeah. I guess it
Right.
could keep pests in too.
Keeps me in. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're not opening your windows, why are they on there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, some of them have self-storing and such, and that are different. But the older homes, I mean, a lot of times they're a screen that goes over the top of a window, and all you're doing is trapping debris and moisture and everything out there and deteriorating the screen. So somebody like myself has to come replace them.
Are y'all take storm windows down, put storm windows up kind of folks, or do you just leave them up all the time?
I'll leave them up.
Yeah,
Just leave them.
Okay, so if you've got an older home with storm windows, all the experts say leave them up. My old boss, when I was very young, my first job, we took them down every year and we put them up every year. And I'm
Little
like,
clips on top or something.
Oh, no.
You lifted them. Screw it up.
Yeah, some of them have little numbers. Those
Yeah.
little numbers they'd hammered into the
Yep.
wood,
So you know
Oh,
which
yeah.
one
so
to
they
go
knew
to.
exactly which window went on them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Another thing on the fall, like inspect the chimney, but make sure the damper opens. If you have a wood burning fireplace and the damper's got to open and close, leaving it open is just going to pull all your heat down when you're not using it. And some
Or
I
it's
mean-
staying shut closed. You can know real quick too,
Yeah,
aren't you?
you'll know that real quick. Some of the gas fireplaces are vented, some are not. You know, the non-vented, there's just nothing to do but fire it up, flip a switch. But the vented ones, you know, you do have to open and close it. So, and a chimney sweep probably every year or every 2 years or something if you use it a lot.
And you just brought something to mind. It's important to know what you have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got gas logs, are they vented or not vented?
Right.
And I've seen non-vented gas logs installed in an old chimney. So you have a full chimney and you have a damper,
Mhm.
but you don't actually have to vent the logs.
The logs,
So
right.
then opening it, you really at that point it's just aesthetic.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know much about the gas logs. Ours are non-vented. There's, it puts a lot of moisture in the air too. When you run that for half an hour or so, it does put a lot of moisture in the air.
And heat, it'll run you out of the room.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's good. The one that's on here, let's go over to the winter. That's on the back page here. One that I have seen very recently, and it almost feels like it's getting worse, and maybe I'm just more aware of it. That second one on there, if you have to salt your driveway or your sidewalk, man, sweep up that salt and get it off of your concrete as quick as possible. Raise your hand if you have damage on your concrete because of salt. We have it here at Cedar Glade. Yeah. So, am I wrong? Like, is that a new thing, or is the concrete not as good? Like, what's causing that? It seems new to me, like a new phenomenon.
Salt deteriorate. I mean, salt in is a chlorine, and so is the concretes. One's an alkaline, and one's kind of an acid type thing. And I mean, the longer it sits there, it just deteriorates the top of that concrete. There, they do make ice melters. Now, if you go buy the cheap rock salt, then you're going to have that. They do make certain ice melters that are not salt-based, and they work to a lower temperature besides salt, because salt quits at about 0. And they'll work to a lower temperature than that. But they don't deteriorate the concrete, and they're not as harmful to the vegetation around there. You can always tell when somebody's put salt on their driveway because the grass is dead, like 6 inches in on either side.
Hey, man, the Romans did it.
Yeah.
Salted earth.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. What else on the winter stuff? One that, and I would probably actually put this in spring, or just because of temperature, flushing out a water heater. Let's talk about that for a second. There is one little trick that a lot of folks aren't aware of on a water heater, which is we don't drain the water heater without turning the water heater off.
Okay.
If it's an electric, right? Because what happens?
If you don't, are you saying if you don't turn off the power, electrical, it's just going to keep running?
Or you're going to
It'll
burn
short
the
out.
element.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
going
it
to
gets
burn
hot
it.
because there's no water.
Yeah, you're going to burn the element out.
Yeah.
So you got to have the water in it. So you never flip the breaker on a water heater unless you know that it's full of water, right?
Yeah.
Or else you'll be replacing an element, which isn't that hard, but you really just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Also have to flush the tankless as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I just flushed mine.
Yeah.
We have a whole house water filter, and it was clean, super clean, 4 years old.
Nice.
And I don't know if the previous owners had flushed it. or
And the
anything like that,
flushing on the tankless, as you brought up, the manufacturers on those do not have a universal fitting, which is crazy because so if you've got a ream or depending upon what brand you have to get the flush valve fitting that actually works
For that one.
for that one. So if you buy one, make sure you buy the flush valve with it from whomever you buy that from or whoever installs it for you.
That's good stuff. Anything to add on winter?
I say, well, when I do mine, I usually do spring or fall on my water heater just because I know I'm going to have the door open with the hose running out.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. All right, last thing on here, I put a couple of things as a monthly. What do you think are some of the most important things to do monthly? Obviously, changing an air filter, right, on your HVAC.
Yeah.
Don't buy expensive air filters unless you have allergy issues. That's my opinion. And if you just buy the cheapo, as long as you change them out every month.
Well, and actually the hyperallergenic ones, they're thicker, so it's actually harder on the unit because it doesn't allow the air to flow through it as easily. So they can actually stress out your units faster.
Yeah, I kind of go middle of the road, just and probably change them out every 2 to 3 months or so. But middle of the road kind of rating, not the.
We have a dog, so it's every month because I mean it's the return is in the hallway. And the dog hair just
running back.
You
and
can
forth.
just you can just it's like a magnet to it when it turns on. So
Same.
you
We
got
3 dogs.
Yeah, so if you got a dog, you better be changing it every month.
And if you have a cat, you just need to get rid of the cat.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I have 7 skunks at the house right now.
Get rid of those too.
You don't count, man. You don't count. Other monthly stuff that you guys can think of. What's your opinion on septic systems? Are you a Ridex? Are you a Ridex person or?
I don't have any knowledge of those very much. I mean, I don't dig below the ground, so
You don't inspect them.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You know,
All right, so I have
I
one.
call a guy.
My neighbor didn't have to do anything for theirs for 30 years. It's the first time they do it. I have to have mine cleaned out every 2 years. I've been there 20 years.
So you're
I've
full
tried-
of.
Yeah. Well, captain is. But I'm sure I have damaged lines, but I've tried the Ridex. I've tried all the stuff. It really didn't change. It's every 2 or 3 years. I'll start getting a backup and call. So now I just kind of have them every 2 years just come out. Again, I'm sure my field lines
You got a lot of
are
trees.
tore up.
Older.
Yeah.
And how they designed mine was a mess. So I can't say I'm for Ridex or anything like that because I didn't see any difference when I've been trying to do stuff.
Well, one of the pieces of advice I got from my septic guy is he said, do not use Ridex. He said that A, Ridex is more expensive, and B, when he pulls a lid to pump one out, he actually sees this layer, this crust that forms from Ridex, and it's red, as opposed to what he calls healthy crust, which we don't need to get into what that actually means, but you can imagine.
Healthy crust.
And what he suggested is that you just go get a little packet of Fleischmann's yeast for 89 cents. Well, I don't know, with inflation, it's probably $1.50 now, but whatever. But you dump that once a month as opposed to the Ridex. And he said you just dump it in the toilet, flush it, and that yeast goes in and feeds the good bacteria in there to eat up the solids. We're going to use the proper terminology here.
Yeah.
Turn them into liquids that go out through your field lines.
Well, if you're particular about your yeast, we sell them all next door at my retail shop.
You can use SO5. You can use
We have champagne
yeast. Oh my! I wonder if that would. Never mind. I was going down that rabbit hole, but I decided to pull myself back.
dangerous.
Yeah, super
I
dangerous.
mean, I think of the standard on a septic is usually like 5 or 10 years. Is maybe what the industry or plumbing contractors or septic guys would recommend. Pumping and inspecting.
And inspections are interesting. So I've had a lot of them done for clients before, and they look at is the tank level, right? Because you get a lot of issues when they start leaning one way or the other. And then there's a thing called a T, which is where the water comes in that you flush, and it's got a baffle type system there.
Yeah.
And that prevents the water from flowing back into the house. And then you've got a T on the other side that prevents the solids from going up into your lines and clogging it up. It's simple, but yet it has to be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know real quick if it's not.
And that's 5 to 10 years and just get it done and you won't have problems. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate that. So let's go around the table one more time and tell us who you are and how somebody would get in contact for you and why somebody would want to contact you. If you need this, or this. So that's the kind of thing that I'm asking you guys. Okay, we'll start over here.
Mike Donovan with Homeworks. You can reach me at Mike Donovan's Homeworks Facebook page. Give me a call, which would be great, or text or whatever. That's fine too. All that information is on that Facebook page. We'll handle any of your home maintenance needs. Like I said, we do everything from hanging a ceiling fan, replacing your faucets, sinks, stuff like that, to remodeling your bathroom. So, and I can help with the list. I mean, if somebody wants to say, hey, here's the fall list that I was given,
Do this.
I can do the checklist for you, and I'd be more than happy to help.
Very good.
Jim Edwards with Preferred Home Inspection Service. You can reach me through Facebook, or my website is preferredhomeinspectionservice.com. I do home inspections, residential and commercial, radon testing. I do sewer scoping, mostly for buyers, but we can do a pre-listing inspection as well. It's the exact same inspection, giving you a report of what I have found, and you can fix them going forward, which it doesn't happen a lot, percentage-wise, but it does make the transaction much smoother when somebody else comes in and they don't find much.
I want to throw one other thing real quick, and I'm sorry, I'll get back to you. So one of the things that I have discovered, there's a huge misconception, and our market right now is dominated by new construction. And as a percentage of the sales right now, sales in all are down. The quantity of sales are down. But the new construction as a percentage of those sales is way up. And a lot of folks think that it's a new house, it's going to be perfect. And so we don't necessarily need to have an inspection. It's been codes inspected. It's been, QC'd by the job foreman and all that kind of thing. What are your thoughts on an inspection on a new construction home?
So there's a couple of phase inspections, and I don't do a lot of foundation only inspections where they're just going to pour the slab. But I do a lot of pre-drywall inspections. The foundation is done, the framing is done, the roof is done, the windows are in, but they haven't covered everything up with drywall, insulation, and electrical and heating, air conditioning.
You're looking at the bones.
Looking at the bones, the anchorage, the metal plates, and a handful of other things. And it's a quick inspection. It's 45 minutes to an hour on the average house. That's a pre-drywall inspection. I do the new construction inspection is usually a couple of days before your blue tape walkthrough. The builder says it's all ready, all except this little items here and there, but
some paint scratches or whatever.
It's ready, and I come through top to bottom. Now, I mean, they've got 100 different contractors that have been in this house for 6 months, different people doing different things, 2 different systems. And plumbers don't care what the structural guy says. They'll just cut through a floor joist and
seen it a million times.
They don't care. They got a job to do, and then they get out of there. So typically I can come up with 15 or 20 items on a new construction inspection. And then, the buyer just says, here, before we move in, get these items fixed.
Here's your punch list.
Here's your list. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, the other thing is I've used you at a 10-month. Yep. We've lived in the house for 10 months.
Yeah, 10, 11 months, yeah. Before your 1-year warranty is up. And I do probably one a week to come through. And some of those things are like, it's been like that since I moved in, and I've had to live with it. I've had to put up with it.
So let's get it fixed now.
Yeah. That's right. Get it fixed under warranty. Some of the things happen, and people just don't do anything about it. They're just like, well, this is what it is. But I do that right before your builder's warranty is up, and you can submit that list and get everything fixed.
I was sold on getting a home inspection on a new construction house less than 6 months into my career. And it wasn't a house that I had. One of the other agents at my office was helping somebody buy a new construction home. And you're exactly right. There's all these different people going through. There's constant activity in that house, and stuff it just gets overlooked. And so home inspection, the house was completely done. They had already done the blue tape. I mean, it was done. They were about to move into it. They pull the attic staircase down, and they look, and there's daylight pouring into this attic space. There's no windows in this attic. They never put the boots on the vent pipes. So they roofed the house. So every house has a vent pipe that goes up that makes your plumbing work, right?
Yeah,
and there's a little rubber boot that slides down over it, and it gets shingled in. And they just didn't put the rubber boots on there. And so this, it was a pretty good sized house. There was 4 vent pipes coming out, So there were 4 holes in the roof of this house. Thankfully, it was a dry summer, and so they didn't have a bunch of water damage, but they just never put the vent.
It's interesting
boots
because
on
like a week ago, I'm doing a pre-drywall inspection. So we got all the framing in the windows, and the vent pipe boots were hanging in the garage.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
This house is not dried
obviously
in.
They're not, yeah. And you can see air, you can see light going through them. So I mean, I just note it, just so they don't forget it. But that's funny how that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Things happen.
All right, Jim.
All right. Well, I'm Jim the Skunk Whisperer. I own Affi Pest Wildlife. We're Middle Tennessee's favorite pest, wildlife, and moisture control company.
Have you proved that?
Oh, all the time. Every day I prove and reprove it. So like I said, been around about 20 years. We're A+ rated with the BBB. And at Affi, we take care of what bugs you.
Ooh.
Wah, wah.
Good.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
good.
That's good. I should have come up with that. That's good. Yeah.
Well, we'll give you more time again. I started before you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll work on that. All right. Well, very good. Thank you guys so much. And if you need contact with any of these guys, they're available. If you would like a copy of our checklist, we feel like it's pretty thorough. We can certainly get you that. So just give us make a comment or whatever and tell us that you want it. And we've also got some other stuff that's pretty cool on here. If you flip this over, we've got a trusted providers list. All of these guys are on that. And then the housing market data is a work in progress, but we're getting there. So we're trying to archive a ton of historical data on there and chart that out. So if you're ever interested in nerding out a little bit, it's a good place to go and read about some cool stuff. That's about it. Trent, you got anything else? Missy, you got anything else? John Michael, you got anything? Studio audience, thank you for being here this evening. Gentlemen, thank you guys for your help and for all that you do for all of the folks out there in our community. Appreciate all you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's it.